There's one question that has been on everybody's mind, and the answer is yes. Having a boyfriend is embarrassing. Shantae Joseph's recent British Vogue article has caused quite a stir in the online discourse. I initially went into the article thinking that it would be a scalding hot take, but I did end up having to put it in the microwave. Today, we're going to take a deeper dive into what she wrote and why it caused such a commotion, and take a look at some of the things that she didn't touch on as much. If you like video essay style content, you can find a lot more other ones in my video essays playlist. It's fairly normal for people to want to be in a romantic relationship, right? The concept of somebody loving you and caring for you and being there for you is something that most people crave. However, far too often, having a boyfriend looks different than that idealistic relationship that most people dream of. In the article, Shantae specifically speaks about how some people seem to become boyfriend obsessed and lose all of their personality when they get into a relationship. And don't worry, this isn't just Shantae being mean. This is people who are in relationships saying that about themselves. They're realizing themselves that they just became more beige after getting with their boyfriend. It's an unfortunate truth that people do seem to change after getting into a relationship, and it's very interesting how in our current culture, men have become the ball and chain. The writer credits this current disruption to it being one of the first time that heterosexual women have had their relationships dynamics questioned in such a way. Many other people of different backgrounds, sexualities have constantly had their relationships questioned, so the idea that a woman would be seen as weird or odd or different for being with a man is something novel. In this new era where being single is seen as cool and chic and being in a relationship with a man is seen as lame, I would like to think of it as a win for feminism, but I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. In the midst of all this conversation, I haven't seen people talk about some of the weirder judgments that women who are dating men get. To understand why these judgments are kind of odd, we have to look at it through a few different ways. I think people don't care to discuss the different motivations for why people get into relationships, and they also don't care to look at how that leads into a desperation for secrecy that we're seeing, especially in our social media age. Now, it does feel insane to be like, boo hoo, the cisgender heterosexual women are getting picked on. This is horrible. That sentence is insane. However, once we look at the motivations of why a heterosexual woman would get into a relationship with a man, we can see that there's a class nuance that's going undiscussed. Why do people get into a relationship? The basic answer is that they like the person, duh. But it can get a little bit more complex as we get older and our needs change. When you're in fifth grade, if somebody says, I like you, and you like them too, you guys are dating. But if you're older and you don't have that much money, but that Tinder date is going to pay for dinner, a relationship doesn't sound too bad. I'm so serious. There's a girl that I knew that I went to school with who would go on a different dinner date each day of the week just so she didn't have to pay for dinner. It was funny when she first told me this, but thinking back on it in retrospect, that's kind of scary, but unfortunately, it's incredibly common. Women are put in a position, especially women who do not have a lot of disposable income, are put into a position where they have to appeal to men's desire for them in order to have things that should be secured to them anyway. Nobody should have to wonder where their next meal is coming from, and nobody should have to vie for a man's attention for him to pay for it. But these class motivations color the way that women approach relationships with men. Obviously, getting into a relationship is more of a commitment than going out to dinner with somebody, but this marriage of convenience concept is far too common and not just in romance books. And I'm sure many women who are dating men like the men that they're with, but somebody financially supporting you is also a strong motivation for staying in a relationship with them. When we factor in the still present wage gap between men and women, the difference in economic status or financial standing is something that can go unspoken about in male female relationships, but it is still ever present. I mean, go on TikTok. If a woman complains about her boyfriend who pays for stuff, everybody thinks that she's crazy. Oh, I would do this and I would do that. Everybody wants to be in her place because she has the ideal man just because of that financial support that she receives. Having a boyfriend that takes care of you can be such a strong motivation for people, but it is a little bit more uncomfortable to talk about. Overall, there is a very big sense of judgment for people who are in relationships and have boyfriends, which leads to people not wanting to tell anybody about it. This desperation for secrecy is normalized because the average man sucks. I'm not being biased. This opinion was forged in the fire of personal experience. And if you agree, it's probably a sign that you should subscribe because you'll fit in around here. Anyway, because the average man sucks, people will make assumptions if they find out that a woman is with a man. For example, if you see a woman with a boyfriend, some people would think, dang, I can't believe she's letting a man put his unwashed feet on her pillow at night. Mind you, that's something only you would do. But people project onto these women with boyfriends to the point that they don't even want to tell nobody about it. Many other women lose themselves in relationships, and because this is such a common pattern, this is also projected onto women. There is a sense of devastation if your favorite influencer announces that they have a boyfriend. If you come out with a boyfriend, you have been conquered. You have lost your spark. Which, in my opinion, is a crazy thing to say, but it does happen more often than we would like. So, in the face of all of this, what else is there to do but not tell anybody, not show any of that man's personality, not his face, barely get the back of a hand, baby. And even if you give people the least, they will feed their own curiosity with whatever scraps and then come up with the rest in their own mind. There's no way to get out of it unless you're not in a relationship. And God forbid this man that you have been dating does you dirty. Everybody will be in the comments basically telling you it's your fault. You put your trust in a bleep, stupid bleep how you figure. That is the response that you get. Rarely any sympathy. The way that people react to the presence of a boyfriend on a girl's page shows why there is such a desperation for secrecy, and how our culture is more than happy to blame a woman for a man's actions, especially in the context of a romantic relationship. In conclusion, if we're going to talk crap about girls with boyfriends, let's do it in a nuanced and woke way. This conversation has been beaten into the ground, but there's certain things that I feel like people don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole, because conversations about class and the way that we punish women for men's actions are really uncomfortable ones. And it's very easy just to say that that influencer doesn't have a personality anymore. That's that's a lot more fun and quick and snappy. However, I think it's important that we have these conversations and discuss things critically and deeply. All right, thank you so much for watching today. And if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, let me know your thoughts, and subscribe. I will see you in the next one.